Hello and welcome to MHA Digital Communities. My name's Katie and today we're going to be making artwork inspired by Italy. Today we're going to be using a technique called Sgraffito, and it literally means to scratch. And the technique is used in ceramics and also in architecture. We take one colour and scratch it out over another colour. So let's get started with that. First of all, we're going to be drawing this vase shape. You can practice drawing vase shapes. They come in lots of different shapes, but for this one I have literally included a basic round bottom edge and then a top area here with two handles. You don't have to have the two handles if you don't want to. You could just have the basic vase shape, but I think it just looks quite nice and adds something to it. So how am I going to draw this? I'm going to start off with my ruler just so you can get an idea of the size of this. So this one is about 17 centimeters high. So what I would do is find the center of my paper, which is just over 20 centimeters here, and I'm just going to draw a little line down the middle which is around 17 centimeters high. And if you think about any shape like this, if you imagine an invisible box around it, that's the easiest way to think about drawing this. So I've got a box that I'm going to draw. It's 17 centimeters high, and at its widest point this is 11, so I'm just going to find the halfway point here. So about halfway along here, I'm going to draw my box. So now I'm just going to draw. Now I've got my sort of cross in the middle, as it were. I'm just going to draw a box. The important thing is that it's the same width on both sides. I'm going to make mine actually 12 because it's just a little bit easier. Right. So I've got 12 centimeters across. I'm just going to make it a little bit taller actually. I'm going to make it 18 there. It's easier, all right. So I've got a box here that's going to be my framework for drawing this vase shape, and I know that this bit here, this bit across here is the widest bit, and then I need to draw the other shape. So how am I going to do that? The easiest way is to just literally take each quarter and start to draw the shape. I'm going to probably go down a couple of centimeters, and then I'm just going to start to draw a little curvy shape that goes to about nearly 3/4 of the way along, like that. And I'm going to repeat the same shape there. If I want to just try and get it into the same place, I'm going to use my ruler to go across like that so I can see it. And here I can even measure it. It's just about 2.5 centimeters there and 2.5 centimeters there. Then I'm just going to join those two dots lightly. So I know they're more or less the same. They haven't got to be perfect. This is just an easy way to do it. Then I want to go up to these two areas here, and I want to draw a slightly different curve, which is going to be just going like that across. So imagine like almost like the top quarter of a circle, like that. Don't worry if yours is slightly different, it doesn't really matter. And then when I get to here, I'm able to just put a line to the top. My line is extending outwards. Now if you look at this, I've got this one's a little bit wider, so I'm just going to revise that because I'm just looking at it by and thinking, oh, a bit wider. That's fine. I've got a rubber, so I'm just going to rub out this one that's a little bit too wide. And I've got my basic shape, and now I'm going to add my handles. And there I have my vase shape. Okay, I can rub out these lines. Don't worry about the box because we're going to be cutting it out, so that can just stay where it is. And I'm just going to join up those two lines there so that they meet in the middle. Right, and there we have the vase shape. So now we're ready to start to add colour. I'm using this yellow piece of paper. You could use a white piece of paper or any pale colour really. And I'm going to be using oil pastels for this first part, and then I'm also going to be using this black paint. This is black acrylic paint, which is good because it's quite thick. If you don't have black acrylic paint, you could use a poster paint and maybe just layer it up, maybe put a couple of layers along there. So to start with, I'm going to take my oil pastels and I'm going to put bands of colour across. So I'm just going to go along and do a band of yellow. I know we already have yellow paper, but the idea is to get quite a thick layer of pastel, and I'm just going to put some bands across. So I've got all the hot colours. I've got yellow, I've got a band of orange. And the reason we need this to be quite thick is because we're going to be scraping into it, so there needs to be quite a thick layer, because the first sort of top layer of it, let's say, will scrape off, but some colour will be left behind. I've got the orange there, then I'm going to go for a red. Then I'm going to be going for a slightly paler orange. Then another band of yellow. And then another couple of bands of colour here, so I'm going to go for the bright orange, the red, and the yellow. And then for the two handles, I'm just going to go probably for some red. Don't worry again if it's gone over the edges, because we're going to be cutting those out later. So that's the first step, and then I'm going to be getting a little bit of this black paint, squeezing it out. I've got a nice brush here that's got a flat edge, just sort of a medium kind of brush. And I'm just going to add just a tiny bit of water, not too much, because I want this to be quite thick. So hardly any water for now, I need it to be able to flow, but really quite thick. So then I'm going to start applying the black paint right over it. And you'll think, oh no, I've just drawn all of those colours in and now I can't see them. So with this nice big brush, it's quite quick to do. Doesn't matter that you can see brush strokes, that's fine. So I've just covered that with paint. One layer should be enough. If you feel there are any bits that are particularly kind of don't seem to have quite enough paint, try and squash your brush down and just thicken up the paint. I'm going to quickly, can you see I'm just adding like a slightly second layer just to use the paint I've got. The darker you have it, in a way, the more contrasty it will look when you carve out the colours. So it's good to have that. There is plenty on the brush, so I'm just kind of almost splatting it down and then smoothing it a little bit. And just use up all of the paint I've got there. That should be enough. Then I'm going to leave that to dry. It will probably take about 15 to 20 minutes to dry, and then I'm going to carry on with the next part. So I've now waited my 20 minutes and the black paint has dried, so I'm ready to start the Sgraffito. So for this, you're going to need something to scratch out your design. You could use a paper clip, you could use the tip of a compass, or even a biro that's not working anymore, that's dried out. Just anything that will just scratch through the paint. I've got a little scratching pen that I've got, but you can literally use any of those things I've mentioned. Now, before I start adding patterns to this, I want to actually have a little think about the patterns that I'm going to add. I'm just going to get my pencil and I'm going to have a little practice at drawing a couple of different patterns that are inspired by Roman art. So I'm going to just start off on this bit at the bottom, and I'm just going to just draw myself a few little stripes, little lines here, and then I'm going to practice a couple of different patterns first before I actually start working on the vase. So the first one I'm going to, they're very, very simple. The first one I'm going to practice is just doing small zigzags that will create triangles like that. So they're just two sloping lines that go up and down like that. So that's the first pattern. The next pattern I'm going to practice is using square shapes like this. I'm just going to show you. So I go up and I draw like half a square like that. And then instead of going all the way back down, I just draw a little line halfway down. And then I draw a little line halfway along. Then I'll go up again till I make this little shape here. So it's almost like you do half a square and then you make a mini half square underneath. And if I repeat this pattern, you'll get used to doing it. If you find this one a little bit too difficult, you don't have to do it, but it's just quite a nice one to do. And you can just go along and practice repeating it. It doesn't matter if each one isn't the same. You could do it that way around, and then you can then move on to the next one, which I'm calling waves. And this one, you'll get used to doing this one. You just go up and then you go down as if to draw a circle, but then you don't draw the full circle. You just get halfway up and then you go back. So it's like a little wave like that. And once you get the hang of it, it's really quite satisfying to do. Again, don't worry if they're not all perfectly the same or even. Just keep practicing it. You go up and round and then back down again like that. Okay, the next one I'm going to do is just inspired by olive leaves, which do feature quite a lot. And we've got a little stem and some little leaves or little olive-like shapes. So that's another one that you can practice doing. And then on top of that, you can alter any of these slightly to make them look different. So for example, with this triangle based one, if you just make them smaller, it will look quite different. With the one with the squares, you could just have small squares and bigger squares inside each other like this. And you can come up with your own additional patterns as well. So obviously stripes are quite good. And at the background to some of these patterns, the way that we'll be working is just with little straight lines. So obviously they can also form a pattern. You can have those in different directions. So, you know, feel free to experiment with those and enjoy doing that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just work out what I'm going to put on here. And I'm just going to use my pencil just to lightly, you can see there it's actually pulled a little bit of paint off. You do have to just work like that. So I'm just working out what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to have a stripe there. These stripes I'm putting in correspond with the colours that I had underneath earlier. It doesn't matter if they don't perfectly, but I'm just going to generally have, just putting a little bit of pencil. I could use, I suppose, a little bit of a light pastel if that's not showing up there, so you can sort of, we can see that a bit better. So I'm just going to roughly put the bands that I'm going to use as my stripe areas of different patterns. Like that, and all of those areas are going to have a different pattern, and then it's just a case of deciding which pattern's going to go where, and you can make them sort of even smaller, the bands, that's fine. So I'm going to start off at the bottom, and I'm just going to do a really easy one, which is just some simple circles. So as I go in, you can see and hear the scratching of the paint. So I'm taking off the layer of black paint to reveal the colour underneath. And these bits will just kind of brush off. You can just put in, so if you notice on the one I've prepared earlier, I've got my lines going slightly curved to give it a 3D effect. You don't have to have curved lines. I've got straight lines here, but you could have curved lines if you wish to. I'm just going to do these straight for now. For the next one, I'm just going to do the triangles. And then I'm going to scratch out this part of them. So again, I'm working very much like I would if I had a pen. If you're doing it with a paper clip, you might go a little bit more slowly just because of the way that you're holding it. You could wind it round a pen as well if you wanted to and use it like that. So got to there. Then I'm going to go for the next area. I'm just going to scratch out a line in between there. And I'm going to go for the next pattern, which is the big one with the squares. Just going to sketch that in with my pastel first so I can just see what I'm doing. There we go. Obviously, the bigger the patterns, the quicker it is to do. So you don't have to make them very small. You can make them quite big and bold if that's easier. Looks good anyway. And then I'm scratching out, and obviously you'll see now this one is coming out in orange, which is the colour of oil pastel that I used underneath, which is obviously laid on top of the yellow, so it's got a yellow undertone anyway. So if you were actually making a Roman style vase, you would make the pot first, possibly using a coil technique, and then you would cover it in a special glaze that you could then scrape off, very much like this. Right, then we're on to the next line. So I'm going to just put a line across. This time I'm going to go for the swirls. I'm just going to draw some of these swirly wave shapes. Oh, and it's actually scratching it out, which wasn't what I intended, but it doesn't matter with the pastel. That's fine, I'll just go back in. So with the application of the paint, it does need to be a thin layer, and you'll see sometimes it doesn't come off completely evenly, like that bit's come off. So if you get any areas that have come off and you didn't intend them to, you can use a black oil pastel, say that bit there, and you can just cover up. So you can tidy up any bits that you didn't want to scratch off that have just accidentally come off because the paint came off unevenly. So with this, it's a case of working lightly rather than tearing through. Just make small little marks lightly. Does make a little bit of a mess. And just keep going with it. Then I'm going to put in some olive leaves. So I've got my little branches in the middle. And then I've got my leaf shapes. I'm going to my next area of pattern. Just going to do some stripes. And then some more circles. Obviously in this smaller area it would be better to do some slightly smaller patterns. So I'm just going to do some small triangles. And to do some the other way around like that. And then we're just left here with the handles. I'm just going to scratch in a curved line just that follows the shape of the handles like this. Okay, and you can obviously go in and tidy up any areas and add a little bit more pattern. I'm working quite quickly on mine, but obviously you need to take your time and just keep working on your patterns till you're happy with how they come out. But the next stage is going to be now to take this off this paper and put it onto another colour. And then we're going to do these little bits of decoration so that we can present it. So for that purpose, I have got this slightly off-white paper. It's got a slight sort of texture to it in a way. It's a mottled colour, but you can use any coloured paper that you like. And then I've also got a piece of orange card that I'm going to put it onto. These two little areas of pattern are again just like the pattern that we've done before. So I would use this piece of paper at the top, this spare bit, to just create those two little framing elements. To cut this out, I'm going to use a pair of scissors, and to cut out these small sections here, I'm going to use a small scalpel. Obviously not everybody has a scalpel, so you don't have to feel that you have to cut those little gaps. You could leave those as they are, okay? So I'm just going to take my scissors now. And just carefully cut round. And then I've got my piece of paper here that I'm going to stick it onto. I'm just going to show you how I cut out these areas, but again, please don't feel you have to cut them out. I'm just going to show you how I would do it. This is a cutting mat and this is a small scalpel. You always want to keep your fingers well away and go nice and gently and slowly, and then you can just take it out. So I'm always keeping my fingers well away and just going nice and slowly. Just pop out just a little bit more. Okay, so there we have that. I've missed a little bit there. I'm not going to worry too much about that. I'll just that's fine. And then I've got my piece of paper here. You could experiment with how and where you want to put it. I've kind of put mine slightly towards the top of my piece of paper, slightly towards the bottom of my piece of paper, sorry, there we go. And I've cut it down the sides to make that narrower. You could even introduce a curve there if you wanted to, but I'm just going to use a ruler just to take off the side. So I'm taking off about 2.5 centimeters. Again, you can use scissors, or if you have a paper trimmer, you could use that, or if you are happy using a craft knife, scalpel, you could use that. Just going to do this side with scissors. Okay, I've got there's a lot of bits here. I'm just going to turn that over. So I can place that just towards the bottom there. Using a Pritt stick, I'm just going to get some Pritt stick. Make sure you get it along the edge, that's the most important area. Right to the edge, and then some down the middle. If you get any clumps like that, just remove them, just because it makes it a bit harder to get it evenly stuck down. I'm going to turn it over just to give it a rub along the back. Okay, so that's on there now, and then I'm going to take my orange paper and I can place it on there. I'm going to cut it down along the top and bottom as well. I'm just going to do that by eye. Take off a couple of centimeters. So we've got that there, and then we're going to just add these two little yellow areas. So I've got what's left over from my original piece of paper. I'm just going to cut off a clean section there. and these are going to be just a little bit wider than that middle piece of paper. So, and I'm going to cut that in half. I will use a ruler for that just because it's so small that if I get it wrong I won't have enough paper. There we go, we're just going to use a ruler. Okay, so I've got 2 strips of cardboard here. As before, we're going to add some pattern. This time just quite a really simple area of pattern. If you want to sketch it in pencil first and go over in pen afterwards, you can, or you can just go straight in. I'm going to go straight in. I've got a black pen here. It's a black marker pen. So it's got a nice bold line, and I'm just going to, you could use another colour if you don't have black. And I'm just going to add a little bit of the zigzag effect. And then at the top I'm going to add squares. And I've also added a few little dots. And then you're ready to assemble the final piece. So we've got lots of bits, just have to keep moving them out of the way. So we've got, put some glue on the back of here. Again, go right to the edges. A bit across the middle. And then just try and place it by eye. So we're going to just stick the pattern borders on. We're just going to put some glue on the back and stick that along the top, and some glue on the back, stick that along the bottom, give it a little shake to get rid of the little pieces of black paint, and there we have it, a Roman vase. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.